So, as some of you know, and some of you don't, I am Tracy Rains. I'm a virtual learning specialist at IU8. And this is What's the Hype? And it's a little introduction to Hyperdocs. Hyperdocs, some think are just a document with links in it, but there's really a lot more to having and using a Hyperdoc than just linking something in it. It's really a good way to structure just a full lesson and make sure students, especially who are virtual or remote, are getting all of the information that they would need rather than, a worksheet or just a PDF to read. It adds extra stuff to your lesson. So one of my favorite quotes that I use all the time, because I've been hearing a lot lately, is, have you taught 30 years or have you taught 1 year 30 times? I know that right now is a lot of change, and it's difficult for some because they've been going with the flow, and I'm not saying that it's bad, but a lot of teachers get into, that rhythm where they teach the same thing every year and that's how they go about it. And this year has really thrown a wrench into that. So it's a great time to kind of revamp what you're doing and what you're offering the students, because if you've been teaching 1 year 30 times, then it's time to revisit. It is 2020. It's still 2020, right? It's been a crazy 2020, but it's still 2020. So one thing that's, everyone has needed a lot of this year is perseverance. And I know a lot of teachers are really pushing that boulder uphill and trying and doing everything they can. And this is just a way, whether you're using Google Classroom, Schoology, Canvas, anything, this is just a great way to structure that remote or online lesson. I like to start with the 5 traps that will kill online learning. One is the content trap. When people fall into the content trap, online learning has all the material, but none of the heart. I know not everybody has done this, obviously. There's been a lot of great stuff being put out there, but it happens sometimes. We get stuck in that worrying about the content, giving them that PDF to read or making sure they have this video to look at. And we forget about all of the extra heart that we put into creating lessons. It's not just about content when we deliver it. We give those little side stories, tell different things. Even in Zooms, when people, have their cat in a Zoom, there's little things that can still be added into a lesson other than just the content. The one size fits all trap. This is such a great opportunity to provide that personalized learning. You have the ability to structure it in a way that, if you have some kids that need some remediation, you can give it to them. You can provide other students with a little extra if they are, a higher level. Maybe give them more critical thinking questions. And you can do that by providing the same material and just offering different kind of tiers, we'll say. Excellent time to do that personalized learning experience. The isolation trap. Teaching and learning online doesn't mean they're learning alone. You can still do lots of collaborative things with students, regardless of if they're at home or not. I've been seeing a lot of, worksheets. How do I upload a PDF so they can write on it? Well, let's maybe try to do a Padlet where they can collaborate with each other instead of just uploading that PDF. So there's a good opportunity to do some collaboration. I think we just need to kind of look at those tools and what's available. The teaching transfer trap. Teachers must learn new approaches. I mean, do I have to go any further? All teachers are learning new approaches right now. It is definitely a must. But for authentic assessment especially, I hear a lot of, it's screen time. There's definitely things that can be done off screen. I don't think a kid should be in front of the screen from 8 until 4. One of the things we'll look at here in a minute is the Zoom trap. You should not be replicating school using Zoom. because they're two different things. And creating different ways to present authentic assessment is a great thing to do right now in that virtual space. A teacher who is funny and engaging in the physical classroom often doesn't know how to convey that funness through virtual tools. That's where I talk about the, cat and Zoom. I've been seeing a lot, Brenda's going to be excited. I've been seeing so many great stories on Twitter of teachers. One teacher was doing a rap as his kids came in and introducing himself that way. And there's still a lot of funness. I think there's a lot of hesitation because they're learning something, so they forget that part. But you have to be engaging and you have to make it fun, or you're going to lose the kids. So taking that physical classroom and building it into a virtual space is still just as necessary. I always say about Bitmojis, I put my Bitmojis all over the place. I just throw them all over the place because that's, kids think it's cheesy. That's okay. If it's cheesy, you're looking at it and you're laughing, and that's what I want you to do. It's a way to get them to at least pay a little bit of attention. I sometimes fall down a serious rabbit hole when I go through that mode, because when I'm looking for videos for engagement, you can really get lost. so you have to kind of, keep yourself grounded in there and look for something quick and keep yourself on track. So, great idea. One of the reasons why I started talking about these Hyperdocs and these other things is I saw online this Rethinking Teaching PDF. And it was created by this woman named Tori Trust. She's a PhD. She does virtual learning. And it talks about enriching remote, online, flexible, blended, and in-person teaching for the fall. Hyperdocs, WebQuest, all of these things that we're talking about creating can easily transfer if we're in the classroom. It doesn't have to be a if or then. It can be a whenever. You can use these tools whenever you want. Because let's face it, look at the first thing under instead of this is long lectures. There's no student that is sitting in your classroom for 45 minutes listening to you lecture and being engaged. It's just not happening. Worksheets, high stakes testing, one size fits all. All of those things are things that are kind of, in the past. We're moving on from those. We know kids, even when we do videos, those videos need to be like under 10 minutes or you lose them. That's what they're used to these days. And I'll be honest, I fall into that trap myself. On Facebook, that's what I love about Twitter is there's a certain amount of characters, because on Facebook, if I hit see more and it's more than like a couple sentences, I'm out. I don't read the whole thing. I just don't. That's where I am these days. So I think YouTube and Twitter and Snapchat, we're used to that quick consumption, and that's what these kids are used to too, that quick consumption. So the Hyperdocs give us a way to do that, to make mini lessons. Instead of 45-minute long lectures, mini lessons. Here's a video giving you the same information, but in 7 minutes instead of a 45-minute lecture. Because let's face it, that's how it works. We can do it that quickly. And Brenda, did you drop the link in the chat of the?
No, but I will.
Okay. Just because this has some really, I kind of wish they would take the teaching during COVID off, but I guess, it still is, so it's still relevant. But don't replicate school. 6 hours in school is not the same as 6 hours on Zoom. We know that. I think we all fall into that. A day of Zooms can be exhausting. And then on top of that, we're asking them to do work in Google Classroom, and that's just too much. So keeping high expectations, but changing the approach. There shouldn't be that 6 hours of Zoom and then every class having a 45-minute assignment. This one is a controversial one. Abandon surveillance and control tools. That one has been kind of hit or miss. I know a lot of people are upset about losing that control. I have seen some teachers saying, you can't eat, or there's no bathroom breaks while you're on Zoom. You have to be wearing shoes, which I was baffled by that one, because I don't know why a teacher cares if their students wearing shoes. But that's a control thing that we kind of have to get over, especially the turning on cameras. The majority of adults are hesitant to turn on their cameras. Sometimes it's just because of the background. In fact, for me, it drives me nuts that you can see the cords where my stuff is plugged in my background. I actually stuck something in front of it at one point because I didn't want that to be what is being seen. Kids are very cautious about that. So when we say you have to turn on your camera, that's you're going to lose them at that point too, because it's a scary thing for them. They don't want to engage that way. And just some low-tech learning, like I said, doing drawings, map making, different things that the kids don't have to be in front of the computer. If you're doing a 30 to 40 minute Zoom with the kids and you want them to complete something else, don't make it be a worksheet. Let them do something fun. Have something offline, posters, journaling, anything like that. There's so many other activities that we can provide for them. It doesn't have to be online. And this is linked in my slides that you can check out. Tori Trust, I will click on that real quick for you so you can see her background. She has some projects. She has some really good stuff on her website. Different strategies, different things that she's been involved in. Evaluating teacher designed online materials. Just different things like that she has done that can be helpful during this time. And she's an associate professor of learning technology. So she has some blogs that are good to read, different things like that. Okay, so last thing before we get to the actual Hyperdocs, sadly, upsettingly, the University of Michigan, at least it isn't Pitt, Julie Della, the University of Michigan.
Hey now, hey now.
has really actually gone to great lengths to try and do some research and figure out good ways to help the K through 5 population. Obviously 6 through 12 was a little easier to transition during these times, but the K to 5 population has really struggled. And I can tell you that even working with different vendors, the vendors have struggled. Edgenuity stopped providing content and services until mid-October or November because they just got inundated. They didn't know what to do because there wasn't a lot of resources available for K to 5. So the University of Michigan got together and created this this website, and they talked about doing these roadmaps through this company called Collaborify. And it's really interesting, and it just sets the kid up. It gives them a starting point, and it takes them through the material and what they need to learn and provides them activities the whole way. And it's a really interesting approach for those students. Again, one of the things that I hear all the time about Hyperdocs and different things like this is that it's just basically the content. And it's not about taking your lecture and putting that in a material with a link here and there. This is about creating the whole lesson for the student to do at home. And their Collaborify, it's interesting. There are some already created, and there's some that you can make your own. They actually are looking for teachers to create some to provide for students. So if you want to check that out, it's an interesting thing they got going on. And they say Gen Zers in here, but really we know that Gen Alpha is what they're working with at this point, because the Gen Zers are on their way out. Gen Alpha are those K to 5 kids who were born with iPads. In 2010, they were born with iPads. So they are very, very well versed in what we're doing here. So one of the Hyperdocs that is set up is the Explore, Explain, Apply. The reason that we do Explore, Explain, Apply is to transition from that traditional approach of lecture and read, worksheet, quiz. Okay. So that's the way we used to do it. Teachers gave you the information, the students took that information, put it on a worksheet, and then we quizzed them to see if they knew it, right? So this is a mind frame switch. And I've said this from the beginning, that teachers have to be willing, again, to give up a little bit of that control. Brenda and I saw one of the teachers in Google Classroom told us, you know, oof, I have to be, instead of, did I tell them the information? Did I give them everything they needed to find the information? And that's really what we're talking about here when we use explore, explain, apply. We're talking about, not what I meant to do. We're talking about students gathering background knowledge on a topic on their own, and then coming back and talking with the teacher about it and having that collaboration and discussing whole group or just teacher provided instruction. Did they get it? Do they understand? Fill in those gaps, and then have the students apply what they learned. So that's one of the new ways that you can kind of go about. And here is the Hyperdoc template for that. Now, I started out using Google Docs for this kind of thing. And then one of my colleagues who likes slides more than docs
That's me.
was telling me, you know, it's so much easier if you use the slides, because then you can embed those YouTube videos and it keeps the student from having to go out, link out to YouTube. It keeps the advertisements down. And especially right now, oh gosh, they don't need to get inundated with all those advertisements. So it's very easy to take the explore, explain, apply, and put that in Google Slides also if you're using videos. But this is the template that they have for that. Explore, that's where you put, you know, some information for them, videos, articles, so they can look at resources themselves, and then give them a task to do with it, just so, you know, they keep them on track a little bit and keep them going. Explain, same thing, videos. This is probably where you would add that flip grid of yourself or some video of yourself kind of talking about it, a little mini lecture going on, something maybe you wrote. Again, another little task, and then an application. How can they put that, how can they explain to you that they understood that? What can you make them do in that time? Links to rubrics, how to turn your work in, that kind of thing should go in there also. And it's really that quick and easy, but it makes sure that you remember to give all of that face-to-face information into the virtual setting. And not everything, there are longer ones that I will talk about too with, for example, the 5 and 6E model. And they have a little more, you know, they have 5 to 6 different things for tasks for students to do, but not every lesson needs all of that. So this is a great way if you have just a little, you know, mini lesson, just to give them that, and they get all their information. Okay. So what's the hype? There's actually a Hyperdocs.com that I will take you out to. And I love this because if you know me, you know that I'm not a huge fan of teachers pay teachers, strictly because of the copyright issues that get involved. Teachers pay teachers don't follow any copyright, so that's kind of frustrating. So this is teachers give teachers. And this is where we have some templates and some samples and different things like that we can check out. What's the hype is, that's my samples. It was a group of teachers, believe it or not, who started back in 2013, doing this, creating these little lessons to go virtual instead of just doing lectures. So there's a whole website, hyperdocs.com, that you can sign up, but you don't have to. And it talks about different things that they have all these courses on getting started with Hyperdocs, course pathways, remote teaching, defining Hyperdocs. They actually have like little courses that you can go through, which it makes it very interesting because their explanation behind it is, it makes sense to why they do it the way they do. Book, media, blog, all of that is in here. And then under teachers give teachers, no matter what. Oh,
Maintenance.
undergoing some maintenance. Of course, that's kind of the, that's how my day is going today, which is fine. Not that surprising. But the good news is they have sample lessons and templates for every subject. So for example, high school math, which we know high school math can be kind of a pain in the butt. And when you open up this slides, they have the whole lesson already mapped out for them. Can I have a copy of this document? Somebody needs to learn slides. Starts with an engaging picture. How can algebra help you plan a backpacking trip? That's going to get a kid. It's relevant, it's engaging, it's something that a lot of kids, especially around here, can relate to. Maybe not so much in the inner city going to the mountains, but we know our group, our kids, mountains would be a thing for them. This is funny because I hate this little guy. I don't know why, but we have lessons with this little guy in him, and he's just, I don't know, he's creepy to me. But it goes through an entire lesson. Congratulations, you just landed your first job, talking about money. So they make it relevant and engaging for each student. And that's just one example of a hyper slide that they have available for math. One of the things that I wanted to show also is how this can be set up in Google Classroom, at least. As I said, if you publish the slides to the web, they can translate into Schoology, Canvas, Google Classroom, any of the ones that you're looking at, any platform that you're using.
Hey Trace, do you know if anyone can put lessons on Hyperdocs?
In the
Sure.
Hyperdocs.com?
Yeah, like what's the vetting process, or is there one?
That is an excellent question. They also talk about multimedia text sets. Go ahead.
I was just going to follow up, like Jen, that's an excellent question, if they are monitored for quality, because it almost seems like they have to be.
Right, because that's kind of what scares me with teacher paid teachers.
Exactly.
Right.
It looks a little more official, like somebody must kind of be,
vetting it.
What's going on there? Yeah.
Yeah. We can look into that. It's a good question.
I'm wondering if you have to pass their courses maybe before you can submit your stuff. That's an excellent question. Let's click on join and see. So there is a paid version too. Oh, and some things have moved over.
Yeah, I wonder why. Supply and demand.
Oh, there's a coupon. Those are good. Yeah, supply and demand. How about it? Designing, delivering, and multimedia text set courses have all moved. Interesting. So I'm going to say yes, probably, since there's a paid version and there's courses. I'm going to think that there has to be some kind of vetting process there. It is a great question. So one of the ways to stay organized using Hyperdocs, I always use, and I know the dates are a little off now, but in our Google Classroom, I set an agenda, what the students are going to be working on which day. And then there's that little My Bitmoji, I told you, I use everywhere. Here is one of the Hyperdocs that I set up myself. So here is a summary of what they would be learning. You've got that connection, that hook, that engagement strategy that you would put in there. Bell ringer, in this case, it's drone footage of Auschwitz. So putting in a bell ringer. Engagement activity, here's talking about a virtual tour of Auschwitz-Birkenau, and then it talks about one of the survivors. Here's where they'll get that content, that read and watch. And if this was on a slide, then the watch would be embedded so they wouldn't have to leave, but here it's not. Ooh. Explain what you know. I would have them do, and this is something that would be a great way to, when you are coming back together in a Zoom, maybe you have that conversation at that point, you have them do a discussion, a class discussion. You can put them in breakout rooms and have them talk to each other and see what they've learned, jump in and out of each classroom, each breakout room, and as the teacher, and see, what everyone's thinking, have them come back, have that discussion, where that way you're collaborating rather than using your Zoom time to be teaching for 45 minutes. Then I have a show what you know here, where there's a rubric embedded and there's a link to access timeline software. This is one that they could do on video, or there's software for it, but you can also just have them create a timeline on their floor, get a big piece of paper and create, put timelines together. There's Google Drawings that you can do timelines on. There's all kinds of things available for that. And then a reflection activity. But do you see how this incorporates all of the things that you would do in your face-to-face classroom? It's not just, hey, read my Google Slides for 45 minutes, or check out this Google Doc for 45 minutes, or however long. It has different aspects, and it's moving them around so they're keeping engaged constantly. So another way that you can do something like that is through the slides. And you can see, again, the learning target and the objective are both put in there. Here's an engagement. I use Twitter and Facebook for the engagement for this one because, well, I made this a couple years ago, so now it would probably have to change again to, I don't know, what are kids doing these days? A TikTok? Have them check out
Instagram, smart Snapchat. Ugh, I can't even say it.
Could they do Snapchat?
It wouldn't work very well for this now.
Okay.
But that's where they are. That was your question, was where are they? I'm there on Snapchat.
Well, but TikTok would work, right?
I think it would, yeah.
Okay. As long as it's not banned. So then they have the explore activity, and this you can break up into each section. Like, okay, take one day and read the background, the government response, the legal obligations. You can split these up into more than one day also. This wouldn't be just a single doing all of this, in one sitting. Here's my videos that are embedded that they can just watch the slides, watch the videos. I chose a scrapbooking option for an Explorer also, so they could check out more of the news on their own, getting them to find articles rather than just me pointing them in the direction of articles. And there's a check for understanding. So did they get it? It takes them out to an online quiz. And then there's an application again, with a rubric included, and it explains what we're looking for. Little extension activity also. So that way they have all that information right there. It's easy to keep your Google Classroom, for example, a little cleaner. I know a lot of teachers have been struggling with that because they're putting so much on Google Classroom that it's overwhelming for everyone. And so this is a way that you can say, okay, here, this is going to be your activity for the week even. And it's one activity, but it takes them through everything and they still get the full lesson, but it's only wrapped up in one activity. Anybody have any questions? No? Okay. So that didn't take me to my roadmap. I wanted to show one of the roadmaps. Oh, okay, here it is. Through Collaborify through Michigan, University of Michigan. My daily brain ventures. So this is something that could be used more for the younger kids. So it starts at the starting. Reading in Space has the different levels: kindergarten, first grade, second grade. Same here. So as they move through, they follow the little arrow and then they just choose what grade level they're in, and it gives them activities and audio for the activities. Then they click whether they've completed it or not. There's a legend over here that they can follow. This one's on writing. Jen, they have a lot in there for that kind of thing. International Space Station tour. And then when they launch the activity, it takes them to the International Space Station tour. So they get to see that. So that's something that's a little easier for those K to 2, K to 5-year-olds. Again, you can do the hyper slides for the little ones too. There's the video. And then a drag and drop process. What are your 5 senses? And then a reflection, they get to draw a picture. So you don't have to do every single one every time. You can break it down and do a couple, an engagement and explore. Maybe then you just do a discussion about it. Maybe that's all the further you want your lesson to go for that day. So it's an easy way to break it all down. Does anybody have a grade level that they would like to see something in? Time to go shopping for Hyperdocs. This is everything that they have available. Halloween coming up, start of the school year. And high school novels. When you click on it, it takes you to, this one just takes you straight to a chat.
Here's a request for high school math, anything algebra, pre-algebra, algebra 2.
Yes. So there's quadrilateral, that didn't come out right, quadrilaterals. There's a variance of high school math in here. And they do it in a Google Doc, in a Google folders. So you have access. All you have to do is go in and make a copy, and then you can edit however you want. I like these choice boards too. They're not exactly Hyperdocs, but choice boards are really nice for the kids. They offer angles and geometry. Sorry, that's not your algebra. But again, taking this setup and adding your own material to it. Oh, and there's Schoology. Interesting. And Seesaw. Discovery Ed. That really hits on everything. Let's see, is there a specific thing in algebra? There's algebra. Writing exponential equations.
So you're in your drive now, but you got them from Hyperdocs when it was active, right?
Yeah, I'm not actually in my drive. This is their folder.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'm going through their folder
I see.
because you can see people have made comments.
Yes. Yep.
And I keep seeing a lot of, can I have a copy of this document? So if you do decide to go in there, all you have to do is go to file and make a copy. Oh,
Or not.
that's why.
Interesting.
Export options disabled. I wonder if that's because it's turning into the paid subscription. That'll stink. Interesting. Can I do share? Or maybe that's their way of keeping track of who is asking and who wants a copy.
Are they actually getting a copy from that request, or we really can't tell?
Is this editable? I would love to be able to use this. It's being resolved.
We may have to explore that a little bit further.
I definitely do. I apologize. I've made copies of so many of them that the math one I didn't know you couldn't. That could also be, I don't know if it's a Alice in Wonderland thing. You know how
Is the
Disney
comment
is very-
only? Can you drop down on the comment only? Okay. Apparently you can only comment.
and
unless you
ask
do that.
the owner for edit access. Yeah, again, I apologize. I have not run into that yet. And I don't know if it's just the math or if it's all of them.
Do they have anything that's like early readers or actually pre-readers? Julie asked about early intervention preschool.
Ah, see, so this one you can make a copy. Okay.
Oh, so it just depends on the tool.
That's what
the
I
one.
thought. I knew I had used a bunch of them, so I was surprised at that. So maybe it's just the owner of that document wants to keep track of who else is making copies of it.
It might be copyright too, like you said, with a Alice in Wonderland theme.
Yeah, that was my other wonder.
Wonderland.
I'm sorry, Julie, you said early.
Yeah,
For just preschool.
Yeah, so I guess I'm a little confused. How did you get to these samples? Because I keep trying to get on the Hyperdocs and it won't, first of all, it won't let me sign up.
It won't.
No. I keep getting a crazy screen when I do. I'll just keep trying. Maybe it's something.
I think when I registered for my account, it was confusing too. But then once I got registered, I was okay.
Saying we're sending you an email to verify, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'll keep waiting. So
it might be one of those ones that sits in your folder until like midnight when the quarantine comes through.
Okay.
Possibly.
Okay. I mean, but if you have any for like the early learners, could we see some? Let me.
Trace, those ones that you looked at, like with the senses, where the viewer would drag the items around, that reminded me of a Jamboard, which kind of reminds me of boom cards for early learners, where the student is really manipulating the screen, maybe even on a tablet device. So maybe that's something to think about for some of our audiences.
What are boom cards?
Boom cards are like, well, Julie, you can explain them better than I can.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, boom cards. We use boom cards in preschool a lot. So basically, it's just a template, and we give the kids control, so they actually have that engagement piece where they're able to like drag like maybe the green apples into the green basket, the red apples into the red basket. So it's a really nice concept development that, you know, our kids can do, like that hands-on approach. And there's a lot of free boom cards, but they're really easy to make on your own as well.
Yeah, I can see that in, I mentioned Jamboard, Joel. I don't know how familiar you are with that, but it's very much an interactive whiteboard. And what she had on there for the senses, I've seen similar items like drag 2 fish into this fish bowl type thing.
Yeah, I've heard of Jamboards. I've never used them. But we definitely use a lot of boom cards.
Yeah, one of your teachers reached out to me a few months ago asking me for help creating a boom card. I was like, I don't know what.
You said someone, one of my, who were you talking to me?
Yeah, one of the early intervention. I don't remember who it was, but I was like, I don't know, but we figured it out. I at least knew what they were.
I'm trying to find where I found the senses one.
Was that even in a Hyperdoc, or was that?
Yeah, that's where I got
okay.
it from. When I was doing.
There's another vote for Jamboard. Amen.
Brenda's been very excited about Jamboard.
I have been.
Oh, this one's a little more. This one has a little more to it. I don't know where I got those 5 senses ones, unless it was before they started the inconvenience, which is quite possible. But Julie, that's something that you could easily throw your stuff into.
Okay.
To make your own using one of the templates. I don't know. I can't believe
Yeah, I don't see a lot on here for our youngest learners, so maybe there's a need.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and like I said, that's one of the biggest problems when we had this switch over. Okay, here, maybe this is where I got it. When we had that, you know, the changeover, K to 5 in early intervention preschool, I mean, that's who took the biggest hit during that time, was because there just wasn't material around. TK to 2. Let me see what this one has. Pre-K to 2. Oh, wow. So here's a lot of
Glossier.
Yeah. So this one looks like it would have the most. Do you know, Bossier, did that stick out at you? Do you know what that is?
It does from literacy.
Glossier, that's like R controlled, like AR, OR words. So that would be more like 2nd grade, probably, maybe.
Oh, really? Okay. I know that the younger ones seem to have way more stuff on it. Like, clearly this is a lot of senses. Asks for a flip grid. Okay. So, yes. Yeah, well, here's one that's a pre-K to 2. So that makes sense for the 2. I can throw this in the chat for you, Julie, if you want to check this out.
I just threw something in the chat there too, related to early young learners.
Thank you.
Is there anything else anyone wants to see or check out? Or I have 80,000 tabs open at this point. So
I was totally just judging you, just so you know.
I know. Well,
because you yell at me for it.
I got a little click happy. anyone who does the K-5, it may be worth checking out. Like I said, Michigan has done a lot of research. They have information behind why they're doing these roadmaps, how they're doing these roadmaps. And it is a platform, so they can just use it right in the Collaborify platform. I do, like I said, get a little frustrated that they have Gen Zers written in there. But if you're K-5, it really is worth checking that out for sure. Does anyone have any questions or anything they're curious about? I know that when Brenda and I have done this in Google Classroom, at times we've been receiving just, like a slide deck. And it's really like important to understand that that isn't the purpose behind Hyperdocs. It's not just linking something. It's actually creating your full lesson that you can provide for students within one document so they can easily go from step to step and understand it themselves. Having the content is very important. Giving them choice in that content is very important. Making sure mom and dad don't have to be the content is very important. And that's kind of what the hope is, that these will help, is adding that structure. No? Questions, comments?
This is where I find so much value in Twitter, because once you find a handful of people who do create or just share items that are relevant for you when it comes to Hyperdocs, the sky's the limit, because you just kind of branch out from there, and there's so much fantastic stuff that's already created. You take it and you can adjust it in most cases, but not starting from scratch. Well, Kelly, that's good to know. A lot of Altoona teachers are loving Hyperdocs. That's fantastic.
Oh, good.
I guess I need like a 1, 2, 3 on Twitter because I don't do it.
I know, Jolie.
I know.
You don't do Twitter?
No.
I'm a lurker. I'm a Twitter lurker. I'm not gonna lie. Brenda made me sign up about 2 years ago when we were at Pete and C, and I maybe have tweeted like 15 times. But I lurk. I learn a lot of information, and there's a lot of good stuff out there on Twitter.
All right.
I know what Kelly's doing at Altoona because of Twitter.
Yeah, that's true too.
I couldn't live without Twitter. I mean,
See, thanks, Kelly.
I feel famous. Like if somebody, like an author or something, retweets, I'm like, I call up Nick, our tech coach, and I'm like, I think I'm famous. Yeah, I do. I use it for PD. I love it.
Isn't it amazing? As long as you can use it well and filter out the stuff that you don't want to see, which is really hard right now, I gotta tell you.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I keep blocking and, like crazy stuff, but I love it. And you know what? Facebook has grown on me too, because like Hyperdocs has the the girls run that Facebook group, and I'm on there quite a bit too, for mostly professionally. So.
Yeah. Yep. So many ways to learn.
We can probably stop recording now.